Hi, my name is Scott Mendelson. I run, write, and maintain the Outside Scoop for Substack, as well as being a semi-regular contributor to Puck News. This is sort of a special conversation of sorts. I will be discussing the future of the entertainment industry as it's in what seems to be a permanent state of flux, with a handful of young adults who came up through a program called Kids First. And if I'm getting this wrong, someone will happily correct me. Basically, it is a video-based organization for younger people who wanted to get their foot in the door in terms of film criticism and film analysis. That's in terms of reviewing both popular films, mainstream cinema, indie films, streaming films, and stuff even more, or rather less mainstream than even those. Many of you have gone on to various forms of college or higher education, either within the film industry, entertainment industry, or tangentially related to it, with hopes of, again, working either in the film industry or tangentially related to it. And I just wanted to take an opportunity to discuss what your thoughts are, boots on the ground in the thick of it, while I am at best an outside observer, Monday morning quarterback. I'm also 44 years old, so my point of view is probably a decade or two outdated. If everyone would like to do a quasi roll call in the order of your choosing, who are you? What's cool about you? And whatever else you feel like adding. Ryan, you can go first.
Okay, so my name is Ryan Rivera. I was a part of Kids First from 2015 to 2020. And a cool fun fact is one of the projects I'm working on, those who don't, has been getting into festivals this summer. So that's pretty exciting.
Yes, I did watch that this morning. It was very good.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. And if I didn't mean that, I would not have brought it up. Like, did I watch it? No, I didn't get around. I'll get around to it eventually. I promise. Let's see. Eeny, meeny, miny, Samantha. Miss Marcus?
Hi. Yeah, hi. Thank you. I'm Samantha. I joined Kids First in 2016, right around my birthday. So great birthday present. And I was a part of it until around 2019. And it was really great to be able to join Kids First at that time, right when I was about to turn 17, because it's kind of like later in those teen years. And so I wasn't like a young kid, but I wasn't an adult yet. So it was a really great time to just learn, explore, and grow. What a really great time it was. Something cool about me, other than being a Kids First film critic, trying to think. I am pretty cool, but I think something really cool, unrelated. I'm gonna run a half marathon next year, so just something different, unrelated to film. But I think like Kids First is like one of the things I always tell people about me if they don't know me. I'm like, I was a film critic, so that's like my cool fact. So
Fair enough. By the way, random trivia. Marcus is my wife's maiden name, although she kept it, and she always jokes that someday she'll actually take my name, to which I explained, no. I'm not giving you my name. To quote the Crucible, I've given you my soul. Leave me my name. Moving on. Let's see. Next. Carly.
Hi, I'm Carly. I've been a part of Kids First for about 3 years now. I first started my freshman year of high school. I'm now in college, so I'm pursuing environmental science now as a major. But being with Kids First really did kind of help influence me to kind of choose that as a major. But yeah.
Fair enough. Eeny, meeny, miny. Is it Talia?
Hi, yeah, Talia, whatever feels right for you. Yeah, so my name is Talia Jacknook. I joined Kids First in 2016 and continued with it until I graduated from high school. Right now, I go to USC. I'm in their film program. So film production, minor in screenwriting, and an exciting project that we're working on are the capstone projects. So I'm one of the executive producers on the TV series that they're running, which is very exciting.
That's wonderful. And last but not least, Mr. Carteen, is it?
Yes. Hi, my name is Keefer Carteen. I joined Kids First in 2013, so I think I'm the designated senior in this group. I just recently graduated from Met Film School here in Ealing, London, and that's where I'm currently based. So I am a filmmaker based here in London. And another cool fact of mine is we just finished, the feature film that I was a production runner on, House of Jerusalem, is just now in the film scene right now, and it just got its UK release 2 weeks ago.
I am gonna write that down so I can look it up later. Okay. Thank you very much. And okay, first very generic question. You can be as specific or whatever as you want. How has growing up over the last 4 or 5 years during, I don't want to say unprecedented turmoil, but because every generation goes through its stuff, but some pretty strange circumstances. How has this shaped your thoughts and your thoughts and opinions on mass culture, pop culture, or otherwise, and either for you or for those around you in your peer group, how has it impacted how you make and consume what we would consider entertainment? This is for anyone.
I guess for me, it shaped me into being more open-minded and interested in different genres and films. Specifically for me, films like documentaries relating to the environment and nature, which through Kids First, I was able to do that. So.
Fair enough. If I may ask a follow-up, because I know you were, and if I wrote this down on scratch, you are working, you are majoring in environmental science.
Yeah.
And I assume you're intending that to be your primary field of study with entertainment sort of as a hobby / whatever. Do you have in the time that, as you've come of age, do you still think that morally virtuous entertainment has the power to change hearts and minds?
Yeah, I do, absolutely. I think that with more, do you mean like regarding more like environmentally friendly things, or just like
yes
anything?
and no. I mean, it's more of a, and this is just my own personal, I don't have an answer to this per se, but when I was younger, I grew up of an age of, people became more understanding of gay marriage when they watched Will and Grace, and they became more progressive citizens when they watched X, Y, and Z. And I don't know if I feel that as much anymore as I used to, partially just because of the fragmenting of pop culture, that it seems like documentaries and films of quote unquote moral virtue tend to have a harder time reaching the unconverted. And
Okay.
but that's just my, it's I'd like to be wrong.
I think that entertainment can still reach people, kind of open their minds, and through storytelling, it's able to connect people because it goes through their real life experiences. So it kind of has that emotional tie to it. So that's I still feel real connections to different films that are still being out today, and like still feel that it still has a really big impact on people, and what their ideas are can kind of influence them.
I will choose to share your optimism because it's hard not to, and that's my own problem. Oh, if I may, sorry about that. Keefer Carteen, is it Keefer?
Yeah.
Hi. You've been working in London, and something that stood out in your bio is that you referenced it as a pretty busy industry with opportunity aplenty. Was that just a turn of a phrase, or is it better for people in your position in like London, England, than it seems to be in Los Angeles? Because in Los Angeles, where generations of people have moved out to get a foothold in the entertainment industry, obviously we're going through almost daily earthquakes in that sense. I mean, Paramount TV just announced that they're shutting down at the end of the week. Is it because they're unsuccessful? No, it's because everything else is. And have you found those yourself and those around you have found it easier to find valid employment within the industry outside of North America?
Well, film industry is an ever-changing industry, and before London, it was Georgia, and then there's Vancouver and Toronto. So it's not a new thing for the industry to kind of venture off into different places and to go and find locations other places as well. London in particular is fairly new because in the past just decade, the government has incentivized so many funds and private investors into having higher tax return rates. I mean, a film who's produced here in London can get to 20 to 25% tax return, and that money alone is already it's very much a thing for studios to come over here and film. Plus, the talent here is incredible. You know, most of the greatest directors or actors or creative come from London, and they thought they had to go to LA to be able to actually make it in the industry. Now they can just stay home and be able to film movies here. So I do think when I first came over here, I do see there was a lot more opportunity. It definitely was there was a pulse here when I moved here in 2019, especially with shows like Fleabag or Downton Abbey, and there was Chewing Gum. A lot of great television shows, a lot of great films are produced here in London. And Marvel and Star Wars, everything is being moved over here. We have new studios. I have friends who work on Andor season 2, just as a makeup artist or as an extra. So yeah, I do believe there is a lot going on here. Not just here, but you know, Edinburgh, a lot of Neil Gaiman productions are filmed over there. Wales, Sex Education, Doctor Who, list can go on and on. So yes, I do think there is a lot going on here, but that's the trend. It's probably going to fall off maybe in the next 5 or 10 years, and it's going to be somewhere like Nigeria or Istanbul or maybe Portugal will do something. It's always changing, and that's what we have to be constantly doing. And what's good about it as well is that it allows a lot of artists to show UK style UK stories and British stories as well. I mean, it is a very diverse culture. So, and there's a lot of people that live here. So I think there was for instance, I'm even going to recommend a TV show for your viewers. Lady Parts is one of the best shows ever. And it is about representation in the Muslim community here in London. It is a very specific UK story. So because of the thriving industry happening here, we're able to get more stories that are more centered around the people who live here. So to answer your question, yes, there was a lot going on here. And I think there's going to continue going on here for a long time. And they say bored of London, bored of life, and I'm not bored quite yet here.
Fair enough. No, I appreciate that. Thank you. This is a more general question for people to offer their thoughts. If anyone have any examples offhand of how their participation in Kids First during their younger days influenced or impacted either their educational path or their career path?
I can take this one.
Thank you.
So I think Kids First was essentially a catalyst for me to go into film school. So I've always had an interest in studying cinema, but I felt like I didn't really understand my place within it. Like all I knew was that I had some interest in media since I was a kid. Like I liked writing, for example. And once I got into Kids First, I was exposed to so much content and media that it made me interested in learning kind of how it got made, you know, like the behind the scenes element of it. And I was able to meet Keefer my junior year of high school, and he was able to, you know, connect me with people that were also attending the schools that I wanted to go to. So all of a sudden I had this network of people that I could ask questions to. And obviously the application to film school is so complicated and difficult, and it's really competitive. You know, there's not a lot of spots that are available for students. So I felt like I was able to kind of develop a community within Kids First, which really helped me get into the school that, you know, in my dreams, essentially. So yeah.
May I ask a follow-up on that regard? I was reading your bio, and your bio said what you're doing now is supports various media-related projects and initiatives. And to me at least, that seemed very open-ended. It's like, oh, what is that? Maybe I'm just, you're not allowed to be terribly specific. And B, that leads into what I wanted to ask about, which is that for you and your peers, and this could be anybody as well as you, do you find that your entryway into the industry, the extent that you want to be in the industry, is via the kinds of content, sorry, dirty word, content and occupations that basically didn't exist when you were kids?
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting question because the vagueness of my bio for UCLA is just because I do like a million different things for them. Like sometimes I'll do like event photography. So like for their graduation, I'll pick up my camera and take photos for them. More recently, so the Olympics are coming to LA in 2028, and so they're housing all these people. And so essentially they want like a media crew to be there to take photos of, the village. And so I've been helping them trying to figure out, like where would these crews be? Where would they exist like within this, area of this huge, UCLA housing department. I make onboarding videos for them. So if new employees, like very like corporate filmmaking, that's kind of the vibe of this like internship that I have. But on the side, since, I obviously am driven more creative elements of film, I edit a podcast on the side for Colin Kaepernick, since he has this media team. So your second question, which was kind of, all these new opportunities for young adults. I think social media is this like jungle and maze for student filmmakers just because it exposes our films in a whole new way. I feel like everyone has access to a camera nowadays. That's like something that clearly like wasn't available in the 90s and 80s to like have like a Sony A7S II or 3 or FX6, like all these like great cameras that are used on a very professional set are so accessible to young adults that I feel like there's so much content being made because you just are able to make it yourself at this point. So I think there's a lot of new jobs. Like I don't think 10 years ago I'd be able to edit Instagram reels for a football player. I feel like that's so niche and so, like 2024. So I feel then that allows people to, meet these very influential figures that can eventually give you opportunity within the industry. Yeah.
On that note, and this is for anyone, not just you, although if you have thoughts, by all means, with far more avenues for working in the industry beyond just make a show or work on a show or a movie for a major studio or do an indie show or indie movie and hope you get distributed. How do you currently define success within your artistic ambitions and your goals? Is it just a matter of finding your niche and flourishing there? Or is it something that I haven't even thought of beyond just I can pay my bills in the industry I enjoy?
I can answer that one. Yeah, I mean, this also goes back to Kids First. I mean, I love Kids First. I really have appreciated, I'm sure everyone has, like the support Randy's given us over these past countless years. I remember as soon as I joined when I was about 17, I had no idea what I wanted to do. Everyone says, oh, you have time. Don't worry about it. You'll find your way. And I was like, okay. And as soon as I walked in and auditioned for Kids First, I was like, I just love the ability that I have to be able to tell people how I feel about something that they can relate to. And I think, like, I think it's also a skill that you have to learn all the time. I mean, we communicate with people every day in high school, college. So it's like, but really being able to look at a film, a movie, and watch it, give your thoughts, and then people communicating that to people, and then having them probably feel different than you or really
I think I might have lost you for a second.
Oh,
Oh, wait, now
sorry.
I can hear you. I
You can hear me?
apologize.
Okay. Sorry,
Yes.
my internet might be a
No, it's
little
not.
off,
It's not
but
your fault.
yeah, I mean, with Kids First, it really taught me so many skills about how to be myself. And I think that's why I loved it so much. And now, like you said, in terms of like, what do I define as success? Because of my experience with Kids First, I think if I can be in a career where I can impact people, make them happy and make myself happy, then I'm good. And I feel like with film and storytelling and reviewing, like everybody on this call, like that's what we do. I actually work right now in marketing. I went to college for business because they didn't have a film major. So I was like, why don't I look at marketing for entertainment or marketing in general and kind of see where that goes. So the last few years, I actually haven't done marketing for entertainment, but I've done marketing for different companies. And even though I really miss like being in the entertainment industry and would probably want to go there next, but it's really taught me to learn that marketing, like no matter what you're doing it for, it's the same for film and any other company. Like you're trying to convince people to watch the movie, convince people to connect with you. And I think that's why when I do eventually go to the entertainment industry again, learning how people do marketing every day, anywhere, and communicating a message is really important. So I think success to me, and through however many years, it's been a wild ride, as everybody knows, this last couple of years, is just making an impact.
Fair enough. If I may follow up on that really quick, I did
Yes.
notice that you're in marketing right now, and I know it's not entertainment, so I'm maybe going up the wrong tree here, but something that has puzzled me over the last several years is, movies, TV, they are technically mass market products. Their success commercially depends on appealing to a wide swath of people with money. And yet now, I'm curious your thoughts in the thick of it. How does one raise awareness for a mass market product when everyone almost seems to be in their own little entertainment loop? I mean, the cliche that I use is, when you don't see movies in theaters, you see less previews. We don't watch as much linear TV. You don't see as many TV spots. We don't read as many newspapers or magazines. You don't see print spots. So how do you raise awareness, let alone interest? Do you have any on the ground insights on that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I feel like the way that I feel like it sort of relates, the job that I have now, I do a lot of email marketing, social media engagement, and trying to establish an audience. And part of my job is that I don't have one particular market. Like I market for life sciences, but I market for a little bit of telecom and television. I market for the beauty industry. So I guess the thing is the same with film and Kids First is like you didn't get the same movies to review. You got like different genres all the time, and then trying to also watch the movie even if you didn't really know anything about the history behind it, or watch movies that you liked or didn't like. And I think that's the thing with marketing now, is that everybody does have a different opinion, which is totally like valid. And I think that's also what makes us really connected. But I think to get people to be more immersed and learn about different things within the entertainment industry and within other industries in general is to really like try and establish your audience. And I think that's the thing we think we do know how to do, and we do it really well. But if you think about it, it's like part of my job, if I'm trying to send out an email or do a social media post for somebody in the pharmaceutical industry, right? I think being able to dig deeper beyond like expectations and what you think the pharmaceutical industry is, doing your research, going deeper besides, oh, maybe a pharmacist or maybe a doctor, right? And I think the same thing with film, whenever you are creating media or trying to market it, know like demographics, understand data, do email marketing. And I think that's also what's really interesting. And especially with remote work too, now I feel like we're all being interconnected across different continents, and just being able to all work on the same thing, I think has been really great. That came out of COVID. Even though COVID really changed a lot of things, I think it's brought a lot of people together, since we can all like be together, even if we're not physically together.
Fair enough. If I may throw out I'm sorry, what was that?
I'm so sorry. I kind of want to piggyback off of that because I do think it's very
No,
interesting.
go.
But the people on this call here, we started Kids First kind of like came out of a time where a relationship between audiences are changing with the filmmakers, because now there's so much more of a dialogue between audiences with social media and with review shows like Kids First, where we're able to voice our opinions a lot more for a wider audience as well. So I do feel like that has also changed the landscape of filmmaking and television and entertainment in general, because I think a lot of studios are listening to people and what they want. There is a pros and cons to that, and there's a double-edged sword when it comes to that. But I also find it interesting that when we were doing Kids First, what makes Kids First special an institution is that our education towards how we review films is very much how films should create content for us, which is not talk down to kids.
Mm-hmm.
Kids are smart. Kids know better than even adults, I think, sometimes. And I feel like when they're able to sniff when something is wrong and when something is not up to high standards. And I think Ranny Levy, who created this organization, knew that and wanted kids to voice their opinions on why movies should be good. And if a movie's not good, the kid's gonna spot it. And it's pushing filmmakers and studios to do better and tell stories. And you can go in a whole discussion about what makes a good movie and what doesn't. But I think the landscape of it from a marketing standpoint and from just like from an industry standpoint is ever growing because of that, because of social media.
Yeah, and it's I don't want to put out examples, but because I don't want to. There are a lot of franchise films of the last several years that are technically all quadrant pictures that, and I would argue in many cases the difference between the ones that work and the ones that don't are they're being pitched to smart kids versus dumb adults. And I think when you were talking about listening to consumers to a certain extent, that is a double-edged sword, because we're living in an era of frankly fan entitlement, and that's a different conversation. The idea that you have these people that are my age that have been enjoying these respective properties for like 20, 30, 40 years and still want this stuff to exist and be catered to people my age, in which it's like, no, for God's sakes, let go of your toys. But that's a much longer rant that, well, whatever. Let me see. As far as the Kids First participation, obviously, I assume most of you were relative movie fans before you joined. That's part of why you joined. Were there any specific circumstances of a movie that you saw that you probably wouldn't have seen outside of the program, at least that early in life, that sort of knocked you for a beat and said, oh, that's why I'm here. This is something that broadens my understanding about the art form, about the world around me, either because it was very, very good, or maybe it was very bad for a specific reason. Or is that too weird and niche a question? If not, any takers on the floor?
The one that comes to me is, if it wasn't for Kids First, I wouldn't see The Lunchbox, which was a Nollywood film in India, where I first was introduced to Irfan Khan, who, as an American, I'm just like, he's an amazing actor. But in India, he is literally the Tom Cruise of India. And it's because of Kids First I was able to see foreign cinema. And I mean, that was back in
14-ish?
14-ish, something like that. Either way, where streaming services were still on the rise. So I do feel like films like that and Kids First introduced me to foreign cinema made me want to go out and be like, oh, other countries are making films and making films that are different to America. And that got me into French cinema and British cinema and all this stuff, because there's the DNA of what makes them special is vastly different to America. And that excited me and it made me want to go and see more films. And again, like you said, we joined Kids First because we love movies. And so it just made me think, oh, there's more movies to go and see and enjoy. So yeah, that one really springs to mind when I think about it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Excuse me. Unless anyone else wants to answer that one, I was gonna bug Ryan about something. I watched your short films, and they were absolutely a pleasure. There seems to be a pretty nice mix of documentary versus narrative feature. Do you have a preference between the two, or is it just whatever you want to do at a given moment?
Right now, as like a filmmaker, I'm still playing between which style I like more. I feel like with documentary, something that resonates with me is you're capturing like stories in real time with real people. And then with narrative, you're creating stories that haven't been told yet. I feel like I lean more towards documentary just because there's a bunch of things happening in this day and age that I just want to capture and like show to people like, hey, this is what's going on now.
Are you ever gonna get around to, and if not, whatever, life is busy. You mentioned in the outbreak files that you were planning on making a horror movie right before the pandemic began. Is that something that's still in your queue? And do you feel, if you want to, what was it about?
Oh gosh, so this was like 2020. So this was 4 years ago, which is crazy to say that 2020 was 4 years ago. Um, and it was like my junior year of high school where we're gonna make like a narrative film. It was about my story that got picked because I was able to be the director for the project. It was about like a zombie takeover where everyone's like stuck on their phones. And looking back, it was kind of like introspective because it's when TikTok started to appear and how that rise. But then when COVID hit, the project was canceled. And being at home, I was like, I won't say depressed, but it was like, oh, we can't go outside. And I wanted to make a story about how COVID has been affecting people because it was like really on my mind. Like, half of my high school career was on a Zoom call, not so much like in person. So I would like ask my classmates, like, how's COVID affecting you? And that's why the Outbreak Files was created. But to answer your second part about the horror movie, throughout my time at Connecticut College and learning about like the intricates of filmmaking, I would want to make something more about like psychological horror rather than like, the gory like blood and like violence horror. I feel that with thrillers, they make audience members like think about, the little Easter eggs in the background and like how, societal standards make people a certain way. So I think I'd mostly focus on like more thriller horror stories.
Fair enough. I'm gonna throw in another very generic one, and any takers are welcome. What to you is strikes you as a pessimistic trend in entertainment slash mass media slash cinema that you've seen in the last few years? Something that gives you concern either for the art form or for what you want to do long term with your careers?
I want to answer this one. I feel like the most obvious answer is sequels. Like, hot take, why is Toy Story 5 a thing? I feel like they should have ended at 3. Like, there's certain stories where there's an ending and it's okay to end it a certain way. I feel that as a filmmaker, it's like you're kind of discouraged to make new stories because I guess according to Hollywood, the new stories aren't selling as well compared to doing another sequel. So that's something I'm concerned with the future of filmmaking, with these ongoing reboots, remakes. Like we should have an era where everything's just original, start fresh.
I think that's really interesting. Um, yeah, I mean, in film school, so like I took a producing class, right? And the biggest thing that this class wanted me to take away is the importance of acquiring IP, right? Like original property. Like everyone wants something that's already established and to make it into a movie, like a book, magazine, some article. So, and then we would kind of touch upon sequels a little bit. And so this idea that studios are really scared to venture out and try something different because they don't know if they're going to do well. So, and I know a lot of filmmakers, and I also feel the same way, that original content is really great because it's trying something different. And that's always exciting. And I feel like that's a part of, why people make art, to make different kinds of art. So I agree with Ryan. I think that that's definitely like a big hot topic that I'll be curious to hear what you guys have to say about it too. Another one that is huge, like within my film friends, is AI and how that's going to impact the industry. And people are really scared of AI. I'm not scared of AI. I mean, AI, okay, so I'll get real personal with you guys for a second. So I was on this retreat in Santa Barbara for UCLA, and some horrible camera setting went horribly wrong on the shoot. And so I shot in RAW, so I had all this information, but it was so noisy, right? Like the photo just had so many details that I didn't want in it. And in Adobe Creative Cloud, I'm assuming most people here have like worked with Adobe. So there's this platform called Lightroom where you edit photos, and they have this AI denoising system where it takes approximately like 15 seconds and like all of a sudden like crisp, beautiful photo. So it's like little things like that that at this beginning stage of filmmaking are helping us so much. Like even Chat GPT, like I know so many of my friends that will like put their script through it just for any like spelling errors that they may have. So I think it's such a great tool right now, and I'm very excited to see where it can take us. So, yeah.
I think
Actually, going off that, because that's a really important point that Talia said. I totally agree. I think the one thing that I've noticed in my job that does concern me about AI and probably like within film, like I think there's a whole lot of benefits. Like even in my job, for example, if I'm doing an email, something that a lot of us do is we'll like go in and compare subject lines, you know, just to kind of test it out and then do A/B tests on them, see what works and what doesn't. And, you know, coming up with email copy like ChatGPT is awesome. But I feel like, especially with film, I think the thing is because it's so ChatGPT and AI is so powerful, I think it's also like just making sure like, you know, as people and as we've developed and grown, like we're also unique and have developed like personalities. And the reason why films are so good also is because like all of us on this call, like we have developed personalities and thoughts and can express ourselves. And I feel like if AI like takes over, which I don't know if it will take over, I just, you know, would want to be sure that that connection, that human connection that we put into those films and into that writing isn't like taken away. So I think that's the thing, like Talia mentioned, like it's so good, but as long as we can find like this balance to make sure that the human aspect of films stays, I think those two forces of us and AI, like the film industry can have a lot of exciting success. I think the other thing that I am excited for, but also like just wanting to also make sure that it gets portrayed correctly. Like I think making more films about things that maybe we don't talk about as much, like mental health, or even more like historical films and things like accurately conveying the things that we may not be able to talk about or feel comfortable talking about on a day-to-day basis is awesome. But then again, making sure that the message gets like conveyed properly and not lost. So yeah, uncertain but fun. So
no, I agree with you. I mean, I think the main concern, you know, eating too broad of a brush is that, you know, we want AI to make the jobs that we want to do easier and not take the jobs from us. Or even a broader sense, we want AI to do the dishes so we'll have more time to do art, not take our art from us so we have more time to do the dishes. And I think part of the issue is that a lot of the people that are, you know, the stereotypical tech bros, I think, would rather take the art just from us just for spite and don't care really what we do with that extra quote unquote free time. But whatever, that's a
Carly, you're going into college. Out of curiosity, what are your thoughts on that? Because you're going into higher education for this and with all these things going on.
I'm sorry.
Sorry. Well, regarding like Chat GPT, I've even had some professors be like, yeah, you can't like use it like to get like everything. But some of them are like, it can be really useful to kind of get all those ideas down into like one place, even though you can't like completely copy off of it. But I do think that Chat GPT could be useful. Obviously, you don't want to have people lose their jobs over it though, which is like a huge concern. So
No, I think optimistically speaking, and maybe I'm being naive, when I, you know, 10, 15 years ago, when the internet was slowly evolving, I mean, the Wikipedia was sort of shorthand for dear God, do not go there. It's not a safe place to do research. You know, they don't have their facts right, blah, blah, blah. I speak personally from experience. Right now, Wikipedia is the first place I go, not because everything on there is true, but because the stuff that I'm looking for tends to be sourced. So I can click on that and see, oh, I don't trust that source, close. Or, oh, that's, you know, the Hollywood Reporter. Okay, I can use this. And it's just a matter that it's heavily annotated. So what used to be like the shorthand for lazy internet research is now, frankly, more, I would argue, more trustworthy than a lot of more conventional internet research options. Now, does that mean that once AI has been around long enough, it's going to be as valuable and trustworthy and whatever? I don't know. But that is one unexpected positive where I, a generation ago, saw a negative.
And another thing just to note, at least like since AI kind of got popular, at least when I was in college, when I was like end of freshman year, early sophomore year, like there's like word about ChatGPT, it was a big thing. And but so and now like now I don't know someone who hasn't like used it. Like I even like my like grandpa has it on his like iPhone. Like it's everywhere. Like all these generations are like merging this one platform. But I don't know if anyone has used Midjourney, but AI
I've
that
heard of it.
develops like images. And so what is so impressive is how like so how USC functions with a lot of these projects is you have to pitch it to the professors if you want to make something and they give you money for it. And so you have to make a pitch deck. And one of my films was about this alien that was coming to a high school, and she kind of had to like figure out what it means to be human, right? Like how am I going to accurately like represent what's in my mind with this film? And so AI became such a tool for us. Like we just were creating all of these really realistic looking images that really aided our creativity. Cause like all of a sudden we're like, oh, like her makeup would look so much better if she had, purple eyes. And like, this AI tool really helped me with that. So I feel like as a student, as a young adult coming into the industry, it's something really exciting because it gives us kind of leverage to find our own voice more, just because we have so much access to what other people have done in the past, and also tools that are helping us visually communicate what we want to see, especially like for our own projects. So I just thought that was a really interesting tool that I learned, at least in college.
No, there's a certain logic to that when you're someone that either because they're young or they're just starting out, and you're not expected to have an entire crew, paid or otherwise, of storyboard artists and image developers. It's like, it's so, if you have something that sort of gets the project into motion and then you hire a crew that will make these things from their own brain for money. And I think the fear is, of course, that it's just going to do everything. And you weirdly enough, one of the more optimistic things that happened last year, for me anyway, is that Indiana Jones 5 and The Flash both bombed. Because if those films had been big hits, I think you would have seen a huge film industry predicated on, let's take this AI of Sean Connery and make him 25 again and make a James Bond film. And if there was an element of the audience big enough that wouldn't care that it was all entirely artificial, that would be mass market entertainment. Why not have, young Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger again, or any known marquee character that's defined by a younger actor. And I'm probably Bruce Willis as John McClane, et cetera. So the fact that those films were both soundly rejected by paying audiences is like, no, this isn't the future, not yet. And there is a difference between a couple million people on Disney Plus saying, yay, it's AI Luke Skywalker fighting robots on The Mandalorian, versus the tens of millions of people you need to show up to a movie. And maybe it was just a bump in the road, I don't know. But I don't tend to root for films to do poorly, especially over the last decade, when like every theatrical release is an underdog of some kind. But exceptions will be made.